Welcome to Saturday with Smoltz, where every single week the Hall of Famer from the Atlanta Braves joins us to talk about any and everything happening around the game of baseball. This week we're going to talk about the All-Star Game in Philadelphia and what do you do with Shohei Ohtani. Kyle Schwarber leading the league in homers. It's home in Philadelphia for him. Does Shohei start the All-Star Game over Schwarber? On the mound, sort of the same question. Christopher Sanchez obviously having a fantastic year, and it's in his home ballpark in Philadelphia, but Shohei has the lowest ERA in the league. So I'm going to ask John Smoltz, what do you do with Shohei Ohtani at the All-Star Game? Start him at DH, start him on the mound. What do you do there? We're going to talk about Roki Sasaki, because I said he has figured it out. I'm going to ask the Hall of Famer if he thinks he has figured it out and what he thinks of Roki Sasaki. Then we're going to talk about the AL Central. Tarik Skubal coming back this weekend for the Detroit Tigers. Pretty remarkable that he is coming back as quickly as he is after that small elbow procedure. But what do the Tigers do with Tarik Skubal? The AL is wide open. Anybody can win the American League or at least get into the playoffs in the American League. The Tigers have had a bad start. Tarik Skubal, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Do you trade him and get something for him? Or do you put your head down, try and make the playoffs with Tarik Skubal in that rotation? I'm going to ask John Smoltz about that. And sticking in the American League Central, the Chicago White Sox are in first place in the American League Central, albeit a weaker division. But how much fun is this team? Are they for real? And I'm asking, are they really for real? Like, is this actually a playoff team? I'll ask John Smoltz about that, and we'll talk about the White Sox and the Pirates and have a good conversation there as well. It's time for John Smoltz to join us. He does it every single week. I hope you all enjoy it. Please subscribe to the podcast. Go watch on YouTube. Leave a comment. I always hop in the comments and respond to you guys. I love doing that. Or listen on Apple, Spotify, wherever. But without further ado, let's welcome in the Hall of Famer, John Smoltz. All right, and I am pumped to be joined, as we are every single week, by the Hall of Famer, John Smoltz. John, how are we doing this week?
We're doing great, and we're getting closer and closer to that All-Star break.
We are getting closer and closer to the All-Star break. I actually wanted to ask you a question about that because it's something I've been thinking about over the last couple of days. It's in Philadelphia. It's going to be a special All-Star game there in Philly. And there's already some questions arising, I think, around Shohei Ohtani and what you do. I know he just hurt. There's a little knee inflammation. I'm hopeful that's not an issue at the All-Star game. Let's assume he's all systems go. Let's also assume Kyle Schwarber in Philadelphia makes the All-Star game, leading in home runs. And let's also assume that Christopher Sanchez seemingly is going to start the All-Star game as the pitcher in Philadelphia. I don't know. What do you do, John, with Shohei Ohtani? Is he the starting DH over Kyle Schwarber in Philly? Is he the starting pitcher over Christopher Sanchez in Philly? What do you do?
Well, I think the easiest answer is to have Sanchez pitching in his home stadium. Those are so unique when you have the opportunity. I think that one would be easy to settle. Again, with Shohei Ohtani, it's such a unique opportunity if you're Dave Roberts to let him do what he wants to do, meaning you've won back-to-back championships. They've held him out of certain All-Star for obvious reasons, an opportunity to really showcase to the world a guy who can pitch and hit. So it's a no-brainer for me, if he's healthy, to be able to pitch and hit and do something that is, unprecedented.
Sticking with the Dodgers for a second, I want to ask you, as obviously a pitching guy, Hall of Fame pitcher, we've talked a little bit about Roki Sasaki since he's come to the league, the transition from MPB to Major League Baseball. It feels, John, like in the last four starts, certainly one of the best pitchers in baseball in the last four starts, it feels like he's starting to figure it out a little bit. Have you been able to watch him at all, and would you agree with that?
Yeah, I know everybody's quick to jump off, the bandwagon when a pitcher has not had, certainly the expectations fulfilled, right? And I just think that it comes down to a simple command issue with his fastball, throwing enough fastballs to be able to set up his split. He's a two-lane pitcher, meaning he's going to pitch vertical and north and south. He's not going to pitch east and west very much. And so if he can throw enough fastballs in the area of intended purposes, that's been the biggest problem. His command before was not as good as now. I'm a big fan of his. I think it was too quick to jump off that, put him in the bullpen. Is he a starter? Is he not? Pitchers take time, and he needed time to get the ball every 5 or 6 days. And I know it gets hit around when it's not located. It's not one of those fastballs where you look at the metrics of it. It's a pretty much straight fastball, but it's still 98, 99, and he's got that killer split. So if he can develop that third pitch and get that slider working a little bit better, take the pressure off of his fastball, I love the arm, and I think he's going to be just fine.
I think he's 24 years old. Yamamoto came over older than that. Shohei is Shohei. I think we got a little numb to Japanese players coming from MPB and the transition it takes, and kind of forgot how young this kid is and all that he's been through, and didn't really give him the time. And it's like, okay, now you look and it's the conversations, has he figured it out? And it's like, he's still 24 years old. He's just now figuring it out over here, I think.
Yeah, and the adjustments are not easily adapted, meaning some guys don't adjust to the American style, even philosophy, and maybe he's a little stubborn in some areas that just didn't get him to the next level. Maybe there's been a meeting of the minds to kind of, bring both sides and their philosophy to a common, because look, I'm not a fan of this is the only way you can pitch. Here's the metrics, here's the analytics, this is what you got to do. That doesn't work for everybody. It would be like scripting every one of my pitches when I don't feel perfectly comfortable. I think there's some value in being put in the player and the analytics and combining the both. But if this is what you got to do and you're a robot, I just think guys are going to, not to mention coming over from Japan when he had everything kind of figured out over there in the way that he pitched.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about Skubal going down. We talked about his procedure a couple weeks ago. He is already back. He's coming back over the weekend to pitch for the Tigers, just a month and a couple of days removed from, albeit a fairly small elbow procedure. But, John, I want to ask you, the Tigers there's a couple things that are true. They have vastly underperformed. It's been a bad year for the Detroit Tigers. They aren't out of it per se. I don't really think anybody is in the American League. The American League is pretty weak, but you have maybe the best pitcher on the planet in Tarik Skubal with a team that has vastly underperformed, with maybe with a long shot at getting into the playoffs. What do you do with Tarik Skubal? If you are John Smoltz and you are in charge of this decision, what do you do with him if you're the Detroit Tigers?
I think the next month, right, leading up to the All-Star game is going to determine everything. They've played a little bit better of late. There's got to be some urgency. It really is going to determine that trade deadline. And I think in a perfect world, most people would not be able at this point to get the most for a player of his caliber, mainly because that team that's getting him, what do they get? They get a great pitcher for what, a month and a half?
Yeah.
No guarantees to sign him with labor dispute looming. So it's the perfect storm, but it's the storm that Detroit put themselves in. Because they were relevant last year and because they had opportunities to win with him, they decided this thing out. And, that team with the expectation of this year, it all like somebody pulled the plug. It still has time, but you're going to have to find a way to play your way in it, or find a way to maximize Tarik Skubal's value for whatever that team. There's going to be a desperate team that looks and sees that he's healthy and that this is a short-term fix for most teams, unless you've got a mega team that just knows on the other side of whatever gets negotiated, they'll be able to kind of go after him when he becomes a free agent.
How much do you think an elbow procedure a month and a half before the deadline would play into it? If the Tigers decide to trade him, do you think it hurts his value, or do you think in his next 5 starts he can prove that he's just as valuable as he was before?
Yeah, I mean, that the narrative changes so much. People, look, we're in an injury-plagued world of baseball. And even if the injury didn't happen, there's always going to be doubt. Will he sustain the next 5 years at this velocity, XYZ? No one's been immune from it. No one. Let's just play a what-if fantasy. And Paul Skeens today is a free agent. Well, everyone's going to jump in that they can, and they're just going to go all in for Paul Skeens. Now, the question would be, in that next 5 years, what are you getting from Paul Skeens? This narrative is slowly changing in the sense that are pitchers going to get 7 and 8 year deals anymore? I don't know. That to me still is crazy, and good for the player if they can get it.
Yeah.
But to your question, it's like always going to be looming. And now that this procedure's happened, yes, the next 5 starts are important, but there's going to be doubt, period. And someone's going to take a chance. Why wouldn't you? You're only dealing with a month and a half, if he's even available. I would be all in on getting Tarek Skubal. Let's put aside everything else. He has something to prove for himself and his future.
True.
He's got to change the narrative for his future, whenever that is on the other side of this labor. So there's a lot at stake for him personally, that we've seen pitchers on the brink of a major contract and something happens, a shoulder surgery or a suspension or something. There's always been an instant where it's like, oh, shoot, now what? I think for Tarek Skubal, being the pitcher that he is, if he can avoid the big surgery, then these things it's just a blip in the road. But it's still going to concern some people and go, I don't know, that could be a precursor. I'm glad he's back. I hope he stays healthy the rest of his career, and I hope he dominates. Get unable to get when this happens.
Yep, absolutely. I want to stick in the AL Central, John, with the Chicago White Sox. How fun is this team? How fun are the White Sox? As we speak, they're in first place in the American League Central. Are they for real in your eyes? And I don't mean like a fun team. They are a fun team. They have turned around the franchise. I mean, are they for real as in this could be a 2026 playoff team?
I'll tell you what, they're impressive to watch where they've been and how bad they've been. To be in this place of relevancy has got to be incredible for that city. And I hate bringing up Pittsburgh, but who would have thought that the Chicago White Sox would be in a better position than the Pittsburgh Pirates with all that the Pittsburgh Pirates have going for them?
Yeah.
And so when you look at those two teams and you go, I mean, who would you take? Like, great question. Are you taking Chicago on this year's opportunity, or are you taking Pittsburgh with all of their build up to this point? So I hope it's legit. I hope they battle the entire time and actually make some moves to enhance their chances, because the Central is wide open.
That's the thing. I think that with both of those Central teams that you mentioned, the White Sox and the Pirates, you're both in like this similar position where you're seemingly starting to come out of something, but are either of these front offices going to do anything? And to your point, this is where I think the White Sox, and I'm sitting here believing more in the White Sox front office than the Pirates, which is alarming if you're a Pirates fan for sure. But I would believe more in the White Sox organization to actually do something than the Pirates. Because what has the Pirates front office proven that they want to do over the last few years? Nothing.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chicago has been on the worst side of the narrative, and they have been awful. And they strip it down, and now they're, again, trying what a lot of teams claim they can do if you give them enough time to rebuild a franchise through trades and prospects and likes. I like some of their arms a lot. I think their arms are real. That's a tough ballpark to pitch in. Offensively, they're doing just enough. They have enough of that swagger to believe. Look, it's not that you press a button and all of a sudden you're relevant and you believe, but there's a process to that. And I go back to 1991. There's no way anyone could have predicted we were going to do what we did. And we did. And I think it's the same thing right now in the American League. It is so wide open. I think a team, but right before the trade deadline, is going to do something really, really big to change their spot in the American League. It's the Yankees and kind of whoever else gets and stays healthy. The Yankees have been vulnerable now with Judge being on the shelf, and they're going to have to tread water. So I think that the American League is the cherry-picking league where some team is going to go, I'm going all in. I seize the moment. I can win a division. I can get to the playoffs. And now I got a chance to get to the World Series when maybe in the beginning of the season that wasn't even a thought.
Yep, I agree with you, John. John, I appreciate your time as always. Quick question for you. I don't know if you're a big soccer guy. World Cup getting underway. Who you got winning this thing? I don't even know if I could answer if you asked me, but who do you think wins this thing?
Yeah, I probably couldn't answer that. I know my daughters could. They follow it like crazy. I'm a huge and rooting, obviously, USA fan. I hope that they can shock some people and do some things at the next level. Soccer is such a unique sport where the strategy may be dull to a lot of other people, and there's just not a lot of scoring, but there's the way that they go about, the great teams go about, that they never really, you almost have to shock them to win a game. You need a goalie to stand on his head,
100%,
kind of like in hockey. But I think this has been the year of the unexpected so far in a lot of sports. I don't think people expected Carolina and Vegas. I don't think people expected San Antonio and the Knicks. So I'm going to say that the USA makes it to the final.
I love that. John, I appreciate your time as always, and we'll do it again next week.
Look forward to it. Yep.
Thanks, John. All right, I wanted to thank again John Smoltz for joining us as he does every single week. It is super appreciated. And I do agree with him, and it's been a big talking point over the last couple of days that I have seen with the All-Star game being in Philadelphia and Schwarber and Christopher Sanchez having the years they are. What do? There are the two positions you could put Shohei at. My thoughts, pretty clear and simple. He's the greatest baseball player of all time. He's the main attraction. He is the most popular baseball player in the world, one of the most popular athletes on the planet. You do what Shohei wants to do and what he is willing to do. And I know it's in Philadelphia, and there's a big reason to start Christopher Sanchez, and Kyle Schwarber is going to have his moment. Put Kyle Schwarber in the home run derby. That'll be his moment. I don't know. I just know Shohei Ohtani is the greatest baseball player of all time, and I don't want to look back in 20 years and say, remember that All-Star game in Philadelphia? Shohei didn't even start. He's got to start. I think he will start, but it is a conversation that I have seen. My answer would be, if he's able to go on the mound, put him on the mound, and if he's able to DH, or he's going to be able to DH, start him at DH as well. Anyway, that is Saturday with Smoltz, my friends. Every single week, the Hall of Famer joins us, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. That means a ton. Also really helps. So click that subscribe button. Leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. I love hopping in the comments and talking to you guys. So let me know what you would do with the Christopher Sanchez, Kyle Schwarber, Shohei Ohtani situation at the All-Star game. If you're just listening, Apple, Spotify, wherever, check it out there as well. And we're on all social media at Flippin' Bats Pod everywhere. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Baseball is rolling. I cannot believe we are getting closer and closer to the All-Star break. We just did This Week in Shohei Ohtani News on Thursday, so go check that out if you haven't. But until next time, my friends, which will be Monday, thank you all for watching and listening. And until then, find your bat and flip it. Peace.